line. Got a great slate lined up for you guys as always. First off, we're going to start off checking out some Champions League qualifying games. I know it just ended, but we're already back around the qualifying stages for some of the smaller teams in Europe to get in there, which also means we got some Europa League qualifying to check out. After that, we have to see our Liga MX pick of the night for Monday. So far, we're 2-0 on the picks. Let's take it to 3-0 tonight. And then, of course, we got some MLS action. And finally, a little bit of FA Cup to check out. Probably the biggest soccer event going on. At the end, we're going to get to a little bit of something we haven't done yet, which is manager odds. In soccer, managers are always switching. And so we got odds for that we're going to check out. So first, before I start off and tell you guys a little story about yesterday, I was trying to decide whether or not I want to pick the Bucks -13 against the Magic. Wasn't too sure what I was going to do. So picked up my phone, went on my BetQL app to see what they had to say. They had the Bucks. They recommended -13. I took it. I won. You guys can win too with BetQL. Use promo code Rotz to get 20% off any subscriptions online. Check out the description below the video. We got a link for all of our pricing down there. With that being said, let's dig right into it. So first game we're going to check out is PAOK versus Besiktas. PAOK is a Greek club. Besiktas is a Turkish club, finished third this past season. PAOK finished second in Greece. This is the first ever meeting between the two teams. It should be a good match. Both teams have come in on pretty good streaks. Post restart, Besiktas was 6-0-2, and since a really just uncharacteristic loss to Kayserispor a few games back, they're 4-0 since then. So they've seemed to have picked it up. Their staple so far this season has been defense, and we've seen that with the clean sheets they've been able to keep. Sergen Yelchin is their head coach. He took over in January, and he's won 10 of his 15 matches in charge so far. So he's really steering this club in the right direction. When they were kind of floundering mid-season when he came in, we've seen how they were able to react to that. Typically, Greek and Turkish matches, pretty fiery. One of the best parts about sports in general, the crowds. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get that. So PAOK shouldn't really have too much of a home field advantage in this match. And that's why I got to go with Besiktas. Surprisingly, they're plus 230. They're the dog in this match. I don't think that PAOK is going to be able to keep up with them. So I think this is just a really surprising line. I got to take Besiktas. I think they offer you incredible value. And I think at the end of the day, they're just the better team, and they're going to come out with the win. That match will be tomorrow. And then on Wednesday, we got two teams who we've seen over here in these rounds. If you've been following qualifying over these past few years, they're both powerhouses in their respective countries. We got Qarabag FK versus SC Sheriff Tiraspol. Qarabag has won 7 consecutive Azerbaijani championships, while Tiraspol has won 3 consecutive in Moldova. Both these teams are coming into the match similar, like the last match, in great form. Qarabag has gone 2-0 in their competitive matches since a 7-month layoff. Their league actually shut down in January, so they didn't get a competitive match in until a few weeks ago, where they've been 2-0 in those matches. This also isn't the first time that we've seen Qarabag and Sheriff meet up in the qualifying rounds. They met twice before. Qarabag drew. They drew with each other in 17-18, which also happened to be the first and only season that Qarabag advanced to the group stages of the Champions League. And then back in 18-19, they met again. This time, Qarabag just put an absolute whooping on them, beat them 3-0. And I think there's a good chance to see something similar to that. Sheriff is coming into this game on 10 consecutive wins, 9 of those being clean sheets. But I think that ends against Qarabag. You're really splitting hairs when you look at Azerbaijani and Moldovan competition, the level of it. but I think Qarabag is just a flight above definitely anybody that they've faced off in those 10 matches that they've gone undefeated. At minus 162, it's not the best value out there, but I think we got a winner here, which will take us into Thursday for Champions League, which will bring us to Celtic versus Ferencváros. Celtic, probably the most well-known team that's been mentioned so far out of these past few picks, versus Ferencváros, which is a Hungarian club. Used to be a big European giant, actually beat Liverpool back in the 70s to reach a final. Obviously, they're not at that level anymore. Celtic have won 51 Scottish Premier Championships. They're currently the reigning champ over there. They're 2-1 in 3 games this season in the Scottish Prem, and they should have just an incredible amount of talent that should overpower Ferencváros, namely Odsonne Edouard, excuse me, was an absolute just future star, I think, in the making, has so far scored 3 goals in 3 games this season, drew a lot of attention from some major European clubs past offseason like Arsenal, Spurs. Celtic were able to keep him in their grasp. Last season, I believe he scored, I want to say over 20 goals in the Scottish Prem. I could be completely wrong about that one, but he should make the difference. If there's an odds, honestly, for him to score, I think he scores against Ferencváros as well. I didn't check on that line, but I think both these teams should be able to score tomorrow, and I think that Ferencváros is being underestimated quite a bit. Yeah, there is a gap in talent, like I mentioned, but they should be able to put goals behind Celtic's backline and their keeper. The last time we saw Celtic was an absolute whooping against Reykjavik. Excuse me. They're an Icelandic team, but this Ferencváros team should be better than them. Sari Rebov is their head coach. He's won 63% of his matches with them. So this is a competitive team. I think Celtic gets the edge maybe in the game overall, but I think they both score. So that's why I'm going to take that over 3.5 at plus 185. I think we could see easily a 4 or 5 goal game. If either of these teams get into a rhythm, we could see it. In their past 10 games, we've seen Ferencváros score, I believe, 25 goals in 10 games. So they can score with anyone that they go up against. And Celtic, shouldn't underestimate this team at all. So hit the over for sure on that, plus 185. That really does it for us in Champions League. Like I said, we're going to check out Europa League now. I only got 1 game for us over in Europa League, but I feel really confident in this pick. I think it's an absolute lock. I'd lock it in if I were you. I know I am when the time comes. And that's Malmo versus Cracovia. Malmo is the most successful Swedish team in history. They've made it to a European final back in the 70s. Similar to Ferencváros, they're not quite at that level anymore. They're still a great team, especially in their country. They're currently leading over in Sweden in their league by about 9 points. So they're currently in great form, ready to go. They're led by Isaac Thielen. He's got 9 goals in 14 games so far. He should prove to be a lot for the Cracovia backline. This Cracovia team is still searching for their first ever European win. And I don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately, against Malmo. This team comes into the game in pretty mediocre form. They're 7-2-7 in their last 16 games. So against a competition like Malmo, I just don't think they have what it takes to beat them. That's why I'm going to take Malmo minus 167. Interesting fact about Cracovia too. They're currently been dealt a -5 point deduction over in their league for match fixing back in 03-04. So I don't know if maybe you've got a little info on the game or you know anything about Cracovia, but I'm still going to go against them with minus 167 from Malmo. So that's Europe for now. We'll get back to Europe a little bit later on. But for now, we're going to check out that Liga MX pick of the night. Tonight, 10 o'clock, like all these Liga MX picks, you want to get a little action in tonight? I got you guys. We got Pachuca versus Mazatlan. Pachuca comes into this game the very deserved favorite. And that's because Mazatlan currently sits at the bottom of the Liga MX table. Pachuca has the second best defense in the league so far, only allowing 4 goals. They're sitting in 11th, but the issue for Pachuca, which is the same issue for Mazatlan, who does have a lot more issues, is their ability to score. They both struggle to score quite a bit. Each team has only scored 4 goals apiece, so they're really looking for that creative spark to really lead them. For Pachuca, their last game out was a 1-0 win over Puebla, who sits above them in 10th place right now in the Liga MX. They're 2-1-2 so far on the season, and it's interesting because all of those games have been 1-0, and that's how they do their business, whether it's winning or losing. So last time we saw Mazatlan was against Pumas, who seems to be drawing with everybody these days. They drew against Mazatlan. Mazatlan, like we saw all season, struggling to score, couldn't get anything past them. But credit to their defense for actually keeping Pumas at bay. Tonight, though, I don't think that happens. I got Pachuca minus 129. I think Pachuca, if they can score 1 goal, that might be just enough for them to put this game away. So I'm going to ride with them tonight at 10 o'clock. Pachuca minus 129 is the pick. Lock it in. And so that takes care of Liga. But while we're in North America, we may as well check out a little bit of MLS action that we got going on. The first game, little glitz and glamour for the league. You got Inter Miami versus Atlanta United. Inter Miami came into the season with tons of hype. As you know, they're David Beckham's expansion franchise. They're in a great location like Miami. So it was actually a rough start to the season. They were winless in their first 6 games of the season, including the MLS is Back tournament. They have gotten on the win column, though. Last time out, they defeated Orlando City 3-2. And, it's about time. They've lost a ton of games, by 1 goal. And finally, it was bound to happen. They're going up against an Atlanta United team that's in a little bit of a, not a little bit, but a lot of bit of a transition pit they is right now. After they fired Frank de Boer after MLS is Back, they lost all 3 games in that tournament. And ever since Frank de Boer took over for them, he's never been able to replicate, the kind of success that Tata had with them, the previous manager who won MLS Cups with them back in 2018. So it was about time. It's probably a little overdue, to be quite honest. So Frank de Boer is out, and we saw in their first game without him, they won 2-0 at Nashville. A big part of that was Pity Martinez, one of their designated players, a pretty well-known name across North American soccer. Great number 10. So far this season, he has 9 appearances, 4 goals, 3 assists, and he looked his best by far in an Atlanta United uniform his last time out. It's clear that he never liked working under de Boer, so he's out now. Maybe they're going to be able to see Martinez take his game to another level. And that could be a problem for Inter, for sure, because while they have a ton of confidence coming into this game, which is deserved, their offense is incredible. Rodolfo Pizarro from Mexico, he's one of their designated players, 26 years old. He's got 3 goals and 1 assist in 6 games so far. And also their front 3 are led by Julian Carranza. He's a 20-year-old Argentinian, 4 games. He's got 2 goals. So he's adjusting to life over here still, and he seems to be fitting in pretty well. Hopefully, though, that doesn't have anything to do with their back. Unfortunately, it doesn't have anything to do with their back line. So one person that could possibly help out, he's not a defender, but their recent acquisition coming over at the end of his contract from Juventus is Blaise Matuidi. He's a great, he can be a holding midfielder, defensive midfielder. What Inter Miami's trying to do, clearly, at least from their game against Orlando City, is they were sitting back and just hitting on the low block, hitting with heavy counters. And if they need someone that can just dig in, recycle possession sometimes if need be, Matuidi's definitely going to aid that. For Atlanta United, they're going to have Ezekiel Barso hopefully back, who's in 5 appearances at 2 goals and 1 assist so far this season. He's been injured a little bit. He might be coming back. But for this game, as you guys can see, I've got Inter Miami. This is a pick'em. Atlanta is also plus 160 right now. So essentially a pick'em. But I got to give the slight edge to Inter Miami. Interestingly enough, this 3-4-2-1 that Atlanta is still running is what they've been struggling with. So unless it was just a complete Frank de Boer thing, I'm interested to see if that formation is as successful as it was against Nashville, as it will be maybe against Miami, because it just wasn't working out at all for them. And MLS is back, or even any of the few games that we saw before the shutdown for MLS. So I'm going to go Inter Miami. I went back and forth this one quite a bit, but I feel confident now. I'm going to lock that in. Hopefully not change this weekend. One game coming up on Wednesday, also MLS action. We got New England Revolution versus DC United. This is kind of similar to the Liga MX game that I mentioned before. Both teams just struggling to score goals right now. They've both scored only 4 goals so far this season, which would make them the second worst offense in the league. There's no teams currently in playoff position that have scored only 4 goals. So if Bruce Arena wants to take this New England Revolution team to the next level, he's got to figure something out. New England brought Bruce Arena in last season. He's the all-time winningest coach in MLS history, has a record number of MLS championships. He's been there, done that, former USA national team head coach. So far, with New England Revolution, he's 10-13-7. Not great. It's definitely better than where New England was when he took over for Brad Friedel. But it's not as great this season so far when we see that he's only 1-4-1 so far. And big reason is because of that stout defense, which is the best in the league. They've only allowed 4 goals, so they're at that 0 goal differential right now. The big problem on offense that I can see that stands out is Adam Buksaw. Buksaw comes in this season from Poland. He's taken over as their main striker up top. And what that's done is moved Gustavo Bo down to a number 10 role. He's a little more creative now, trying to be a little more creative right now. But it just doesn't seem like a great move. He's got 1 goal in 7 games playing from that position so far this season. This is a guy who last season had 9 goals and 1 assist in 14 games after coming over mid-season, and Arena was starting him up top in a 2-man striker partnership. So I'd be surprised if at some point we don't see him revert back to that, especially after another 0-0 draw last week. So they got to do something. DC United, similarly, looking for some kind of spark. Ever since Wayne Rooney left, they've reverted back to that pre-Rooney form. Rooney came over and in 48 appearances scored 23 goals, had 13 assists. That's incredible, especially in the MLS, over 48 appearances. But without him, they can't do anything. They got 6 goals right now this season, so they're scoring a bit better on paper than New England, but they got a mediocre 7 goals against. And at the end of the day, what I'm really going to take, I'm taking New England, especially over DC right now, apart from that I think they have a better head coach. But if you start looking at some of the deeper analytics, you want to start looking at that kind of stuff. New England has an 8.5 expected goals right now. Their expected goal difference is +2 compared to DC United's expected goal difference of -3.1. So, we got to get into a little sabermetrics at some point. Here we are. That's why I'm going to take New England in this matchup. I think they're the better team as well. We saw at the end of last season the form that they were seemed like they were trending to, and it's all seemed to kind of just spiral out of control since then. So I'm hoping that they can get back on track in this game and hopefully lock this in for us. So that's going to take care of North America. Like I said, eventually we have to get back to Europe. We got the FA Community Shield coming up on Saturday, probably the biggest event happening this week. It's going to be between Liverpool and Arsenal. Every year it's between the winner of the Premier League and the winner of the FA Cup. Liverpool won the Premier League. Arsenal won the FA Cup. So here we go. So in this matchup, it's going to be interesting. A lot of times when you go into an FA Cup, when you go into a Community Shield, you're wondering about, what kind of form are they going to be in? There's going to be a lot of rust going on. I don't think we're going to have those issues this time around. Obviously, they've had a lot shorter of a break than they've ever had before. So we should see them kind of be able to carry on from, at least what I was expecting, almost carry on from where they were at the end of last season, which should be a concern for Liverpool because Liverpool looked really complacent after the restart. They had that massive lead. They clearly were going to win the Prem League. They won it 2-3 games into the restart, and it just seemed like they didn't care. You can look back to so many different examples in the restart. The best one being, of course, that 4-0 drubbing to Man City. So is that the same Liverpool we're going to see now? It's a new season, but they've won a Champions League. They've won a Prem. Is this team going to have that same fire that they had these past few years under Klopp that just made them unstoppable? I'm concerned about that for sure. But another big storyline coming in here is the new faces. And for Arsenal, their big issue has been on defense. They concede a ton of goals these past few years. Arsenal fans are going to be happy that they might have a new savior coming in William Saliba from Saint Etienne. He's a 6'4", 19-year-old defender. So Arsenal fans are hoping we might see him out on the pitch. When I say we, I don't mean we as an Arsenal fan. Never like Arsenal. But we'll see what they do out there. Overall, I'm kind of tempted to stay away from the overall game line. I do think Liverpool are probably going to take it. They're minus 152 favorites going into this game. But like I said, I don't think I'm going to hit that too much. The over 3.5 has hit 8 out of 10. Has hit 8 times out of the past 10 matches. So whenever they do meet each other, it is typically a high-scoring event. It hasn't ended 0-0 since 2015, so it's been a while. We're used to seeing score a lot of goals. Somebody who I'm also expecting to see score a goal in this game, I think it presents great value. I don't know when you're going to see, all that plus 170. He scored a brace his last 2 times at Wembley, which is where the Community Shield is going to be held. So I got him at plus 170. I think that could be great value. I would check that out for sure. Pierre, Emerick, Aubameyang, 22 goals in each of his last 2 Prem seasons. He's one of the best strikers in the world, and I expect him to notch at least 1 goal against Arsenal this week. So that really takes care of the games we got going on. There's one thing that we're going to go on to next that we haven't done yet, and that's manager odds. I was going to do this last week, but unfortunately, Ronald Koeman was appointed manager of Barca on Monday, so that kind of threw my plans out the window. But with Ronald Koeman taking over at Barcelona, that opens up one managerial job, and that's the Netherlands. Who's going to be the next Netherlands manager? So I collected these odds over at William Hill. We got our next Netherlands manager. Arsene Wegner is leading the pack at plus 140. Former Arsenal manager who was there for 22 years, won several Prem championships, an absolute innovator of the game coming into the 21st century. Unfortunately for him, his tactics and his style seemed to get old. He never really adapted. and that created the villain that Arsenal know him as today, in some parts at least. I don't see Wegner coming in as Netherlands manager. I just don't think that's going to happen. It's been interesting to see his name thrown around a bit, especially since the Bayern opening back in the fall. That's when we started seeing his name pop up in a few more managerial conversations. But I don't see this kind of team being it. Netherlands is going through a transition period right now where they have almost a golden generation coming in when you look at guys like Van der Beek, Frankie de Jong, Matthias de Ligt, guys like that. So what they need is a manager that's going to bring in some kind of innovation, be fresh, and I think that's what you get with Erik ten Hag, somebody who's actually coached already a ton of the Netherlands guys that are going to be on the team. He's the current Ajax manager. He's won the Eredivisie back in 17-18. He's won it this past year. And we saw what he could do on big stage as he led Ajax to almost 10 seconds away from a Champions League final. Louis van Gaal is on there as well as Frank de Boer. After what we saw Frank de Boer do at Atlanta United, I don't think we're going to see him with any big European jobs anytime soon, because what he did over there was just hearsay. I don't know what else to call it. It was hearsay. Louis van Gaal hasn't coached since 2016, back when he was the Man United manager. And he used to be the Netherlands manager back in 2002, and he was fired because they missed World Cup qualify. They missed the World Cup, didn't qualify for it. So I can't see him coming back at all. The best option here is Erik ten Hag, plus 600. Like I said, you can get these odds over at William Hill. I think Erik ten Hag is going to be it. I would actually kind of lock that in. I'm surprised at plus 600. That's all it is. And I'm surprised that Netherlands isn't pulling out all the stops to try to get him over there. One other managerial position to check out, we got next PSG Manager. I know what you're thinking, but wait, PSG, they were just in the Champions League final. How can they get a new manager? What's up with that? Listen, how many times are we talking about Thomas Tuchel's job? I feel like every other week we're hearing about it, especially PSG. I don't know how that guy has any feeling of job security, especially when this PSG team simply wants to win. That's all they want. They may see it as, hey, this is as far as he could take us is to the Champions League final, not the win. So if he does get fired, like is being rumored by some sources, it's soccer, so you can't trust any of the sources. Massimiliano Allegri is the favorite at plus 150. The former Juventus manager. I don't see him coming to PSG or going to PSG. If he does get a new job, I think it's going to be the Inter Milan job, which could open up soon if Antonio Conte, who's down there at plus 3,300, is fired or mutually parts ways at Inter Milan, which sounds like it's going to be happening. They have a meeting in a few days. So I think if that Inter Milan job opens up, Allegri takes the Inter Milan job. And if we're going to take anybody out of these top 5 favorites, according to William Hill, I think it's Pochettino. I think Pochettino would be the best fit out of these guys. There's no way Deschamps is leaving France to the France national team. What he's got going over there, what they're building over there is incredible. Wegner, again, this would be a weird fit. I just don't see it happening. Pochettino, what PSG has missed over the past few years is a culture, and we saw them start trying to establish an identity and a culture this past season, and we saw what it could do. So I think Pochettino could bring that to the Parc de France, and I think it'd be a great fit. So I'd take Pochettino at plus 330. With that, that's pretty much it, guys. Before I sign off, just want to remind you guys about promo code Rotz. BetQL has the best sports betting data online. Check out the pricing guide below and start winning like us. Come on. While you're watching sports, you may as well get a win. With that being said, that's it for Fair Play this week. I'll see you guys next week at 8 o'clock, Monday nights, and Rotz out.